Hello, Internet. Ben here with some more mysterious space development, I guess. I realized that the previous few videos were like too long. Like an hour and a half is way too long. So I think I'm going to try and do these things in like 20-ish minutes increments. Um, and we'll see if that does any better. What you're seeing right now in front of you is fake. It's a sham. This is a graphics editor. I was just trying to make it look like a what do you want to call that? Title screen. Let's play the game. So in the last video, which is way too long, again, as mentioned, and which I'm not going to have posted publicly. So I'll have it like a private video with a link to it so that you can check out creating this mini boss as you see him. And as you may see, he's not super threatening, except for his little friends. Get out of here. So this boss isn't done. It's not really shooting at me except when I blow him up, but I want these like orbiting eyes to first of all have irises and to be shooting lasers at me, and I want the middle guy to be charging up for bigger attacks while you try and take him out. Um, and that is what this boss should be, but we're not done. And again, the video where wow, now I got a sandstorm. The video where I started all of that stuff. Let's save and quit. Um, was super long. I don't want to bore you with all the crazy details. So instead, we should let's work on it from here. So let me get this window centered in a good way so you can see all the things that are important. I think the file list on the left here, it's fine. We'll include it. It's fine. I've been doing it in previous videos. Um, so here's what we need. Here's what we need to do. Again, previous video we built the boss. He follows you, as you could see. He's got these little I'm calling them caltrops orbiting around you. Where is that guy? Here's the eyes, the caltrops. The caltrops are little pointy things that were shooting those red wiggly bullets at me when I shot them. And then of course the big ball in the middle, and now we're adding these eyes. And these eyes need irises. They need to shoot lasers at you horizontally. I want to give advantages where possible to players who equip the vertically firing guns. Excuse me, like the vertical bi-die blaster and the quad blasters. Their utility is less, right? But I want to reward you where possible when you use them. It's part of the reason why I made those mining levels. The whole reason I made mining levels with crazy vertical shafts was to give greater purpose to those vertical guns. And I mean, that's not enough, right? If we want that to be a weapon that people takes, there need to be more good uses for it. And so I'm hoping that this is just one more step in that direction. Another thing maybe to do would be to make those weapons be just like a little better because the times they're useful is less, like more damage or more fire rate or something. That's another thing to consider. But anyway, let's work on these eyes. Like I said, I only want to spend about 20 minutes here per video. So let's see if we can add some irises. That's a to-do. I should have wrote to-do. And then they should start shooting lasers at you. Can't speak. Apparently reading and speaking at the same time is hard. That might make sense if you're trying to say something different from what you're reading. Sounds legit, and I can believe it. Anyway, so let's draw some crazy irises. So this part isn't true. We're doing it all in the draw. It's a little weird. You should probably kind of keep the business logic separate from the view. I try to keep an MBCE kind of approach here. It's a little more mixy than like some PHP frameworks I've worked with, for example. We're rambling again, and that's how what should take 20 minutes ends up taking an hour and 20 minutes or something. So let's go. So there is a draw sprite with wrap. So this is important. The levels, as you've probably noticed if you've played the game at all, why are you watching this if you haven't played? The levels wrap around, right? If you keep going to the left, you'll eventually come back to where you started. If you keep going to the right, obviously the same. That would be weird if that were not the case. That would be like, what was that weird 3D game that was just bonkers? Anyway, so it causes a lot of trouble for drawing sprites because you'll go from like an x coordinate of 1,000, let's say. It's usually going to be higher than that, I'm pretty sure. But you'll go from like 1,000 back to 0, right? But when you're at coordinate 1,000, we want to draw things that are at coordinate 0 as if they're at 1,001. It would be. So really, I should have said like 0 through 999, right? And then we draw whatever. If it's confused, I like to count from 0. Doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. So the point is, you understand, right, that the graphics need to be drawn as if they're like way off from where they would be if we just kind of drew them naively, saying draw you at position 0 and you're sitting here at position 900. You can see 1,000 on screen, but you can't see anything past because it's not being drawn properly. So there's extra logic that has to be done just for that looping stuff. And to help with that, because there's so many problems, I have these functions like draw sprite with wrap, taking into consideration where am I located relative to where is the thing looking at me located, which is why we have the player ship that stores the camera. Probably I would get away with just storing the camera, but or passing the camera, but in this case I'm passing the entire ship. If I'm speaking too technically, I apologize. So let's draw this thing. And I really do. It's a thing I think I've mentioned in previous videos that I struggle with. And now this is only a 20-minute video. I'll say this again. Let me know, like, you guys watching, what is your familiarity with programming in general, C# specifically? Like, I really want to. I'm making this partly for me, of course. I mean, it's fun, and I think it does help the coding to kind of think about things more and imagine that I'm talking to people and really have to explain what the hell it is that I'm doing. But I'm also doing it for you guys. Again, I said in another video, but again, one which was probably too long for anyone to want to watch. I am always so curious about how other games are made, especially when you see bugs. You start to get insights like, oh, that's weird. That must mean that the game works in this way, and I didn't think it did. There's all those kinds of, for me, and maybe it's because I'm a programmer, I'm just so interested in that kind of puzzle where you can look at a thing and start to understand something about how it works. And I'm always curious to know how things work, especially when there's a bug that just makes no sense. And you're like, how could they have programmed the game, to have a bug expressed in that way? It just makes no sense. But of course, if you could see the code, it would make sense. Because there's nothing, I mean, code is logical, right? It can only do what you've told it. So anyway, so I'm kind of making these videos betting on other people being as curious about those things as I am. So, and maybe if you're just curious about how games are made in general. So again, whatever your perspective is, whatever it is that brought you here, and especially if you give up before the end, tell me why you thought this was boring. That would be cool too. So I'm glad I'm saying this early on in the video instead of later, because that's like almost more important. Why are people staying to watch? But if that's 10 people, I don't want to just cater to the 10 people. Why are the other however many leaving? So tell me what your interest is in it. What were you hoping for? Did you get it or not? All that kind of stuff, because I want to make these videos interesting for everyone. And again, I can kind of gloss over the boring stuff or make sure to include it more or whatever. So anyway, let's and again, I'm sorry if you did watch the hour and a half videos. Not because I'm sorry that you watched them, but I'm sorry if you watched them and already heard me say all these things that I've just said. But again, because this is a shorter video, I think it will be attractive to more people, and so I want to say all these things again. So, but anyway, let's make this iris because that's what we want. So, sprite sheet index. Pretty sure it's all 0. I think there's only 1. So in this case, this sprite sheet only has 1 item on it. There's probably super clever ways where I could cram a bunch of sprites onto one big image, but I choose not to create that difficulty for myself because computers are powerful and we don't need to be that conservative with our memory usage and load times and things. So we're going to want to draw this. We're going to have to play with this, right? So let's just say put it at your x coordinate, add like maybe 2 from the left, and then at your y coordinate add maybe 6. 5. Apparently I typed 5 instead of 6. That's fine. Pass the player because we need that for the camera. And then for the color, we're going to need an iris color. So I'm going to make one up. That does nothing yet. And here for looking right, we would add a little more. And actually, you know what? Because they're double pixels, I definitely need to be even numbers, not odd numbers. All the graphics in the game, I think I've mentioned this, but again, it would have been in long videos. I don't actually have the graphics at real size and then double them up for display. The graphics are actually stored double size, which, since we were just talking about inefficiencies and how computers are powerful so we can get away with things, that would be offensive several years ago, right? To store a graphic in that way. It's a little offensive now, to be honest. But that's how the graphics are stored because I made mistakes when I was first making this game. I was making another game that's a platformer inspired by Mega Man. Wouldn't have been as good as 20XDX, which is a fantastic game. Play it. And I'm not saying that because I made it. I wish I had. But anyway, I did graphics the right way there, where it was all shrunk in and then scaled up appropriately. And I've been doing that in any new kind of projects I play with. Projects that don't get too excited probably will not be released. Maybe ever, probably. So anyway, I need a new color util HSL. So this is a class I made. Oftentimes I find that I want to create colors using hue, saturation, luminosity instead of RGB, because I know that I want them to be the same brightness and I want them to be super colorful, but I don't know what color, which is what hue, right? So I've got this thing to help me out here. So in this case, I want the iris to be able to be any color in the whole rainbow. So I'm just going to get the next anything. You can do anything you want. And then the saturation, I believe we do half, and then luminosity is full. Oh, yeah, because if we did full saturation, it would be white. Wait, I always get this backwards. Because color, you know, you can tell now that I wasn't an art student. Or photography or anything, or I would just know that. I'm not used to thinking in HSL terms. Probably most of my experience lies in web development, and when do you do HSL in web development? Never! You do RGB, so anyway, and in the game we need to store things to RGB for drawing, so here we go to RGB. So this should give us any color, assuming I did this right. Now this is driving me crazy, because I just did this in the last video, and I honestly cannot remember which it is. 1, huh? Yeah, okay, I did it the right way. Oh, good. See? My brain is great. It remembers all the things. He doesn't remember all the things. This is a lie. All right, let's see if this looks right. Looks correct. And it wasn't an intent. It was an accident. I'm sorry for the pun. Let's see how this looks. So we should be able to load up the existing game and it will crash because a color was never okay, sorry. So the reason why it crashed. Let's explain why that bug happened. So I tried to load up a game where there was already a boss that had eyes, thinking, oh, now that I've added irises, it will just draw them. The problem is that the color, it never saved with the color, so the color was nothing. Worse than nothing, null. I guess that's kind of the same. Anyway, so it was trying to draw with no color information, and then went, what are you asking me? I'm confused, and so that's why it crashed. So we need to find... You gonna turn around? Yeah, you are. There you go. Look, he's got little irises. Okay, now do they look at me properly? I think... Oh, it's hard to tell. Okay, so but in this case... Okay, let's take a screenshot. I took a screenshot. You couldn't see that. And then I will paste it here on my fake thing. Let's make a new thing. So let's see what's going on here. And these are the times when you can see that the pixels... Sorry, see I don't know how much you can see, but up here, right? Like, he's half a pixel, right? Like, if I draw, I can cut one of these pixels in half. You can't do that if they're actually pixels. So anyway, that's what I was talking about. So it looks like the irises need to be 1, 2, 3, 4 pixels down, right? And then probably 2 more over. So 4 down and 2 more over, and we'll see what that looks like. I was going to close, but I'll minimize, so we might want that later. Where are we? Right, it crashed elsewhere. Okay, so what did I say? 4 more down and 2 more over. Okay, let's see what that looks like. There are some places in the game where I'm kind of better about saying, okay, what's your width? You know, kind of center you, like, you know, rather than positioning absolutely like this, where I'm saying it's going to be 2 more pixels to the right, saying, okay, find the center of this eye. I know that I want you to be, like, basically halfway toward the left. Let's find, you know, let's calculate kind of those positions, right? Assuming that the graphic could be any size. Sometimes I do that, but then I'm like, why am I doing that? These graphics will never change size, and if they do, it's probably because I've totally redone them and need to recode it all anyway, you know? The possible downside is that means that if people wanted to, like, make their own graphics, like edit oh gosh, being slow with this guy chasing me is bad. If people wanted to edit the graphics, it doesn't look like he's looking left. Oh, wait, are they? Is it based on... I'm trying to see what they're doing. Anyway, if people wanted to, like, reskin the game, essentially, you would have to do the graphics the exact same size, or else it wouldn't, you know, things won't position themselves properly. That might be good, because also, like, collision rectangles are... God, being slowed near him is real bad. Well, that's why he's an advanced boss. So I don't think he knows his target. Boss belt orbital. He doesn't know his target. Okay, that's the problem. So the eyes need to pick their targets and look toward them and shoot toward them, and they'll just kind of like occasionally choose a new target, right? So it's warning us here. Whoa, it's never been assigned to. And then I had done this in the last video to say, like, because I was loading up an old game and I had just thrown this code in. Or no, it wasn't even loading up an old game. I just threw this code in and it crashed because target is never assigned to. So we need to pick a target to have it draw properly. So let's do that. So we're going to have like I've done this on some other enemies in the game, where we'll have a like retarget cooldown. And we'll set the retarget cooldown to equal the game, no, FPS. We'll make them do it maybe like every 2 seconds. They can, the game RNG next. Like this, like every 2 to 3 seconds, or 2 to 4. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. Change my target. That could take a long time. Let's do it this way. Retarget cooldown will be every 1,000. Change my target. Sorry, I'm thinking about what I want. 3 halves to like 2. 1.5 to 2 seconds. Then you might as well just be. Well, let's do it 1 to 2. Sorry, wasn't that super interesting. And we will do. Let's say if retarget cooldown is greater than 0, then we will retarget cooldown minus 1. Sorry. Okay. Else, so if it is 0, we will choose a new retarget cooldown, and we will find our target will become the player like closest or something. I have some method. Find closest thing for lightning. I do have like, or nearest. Did I call it nearest for some reason? Closest player. There we go. I knew that there was a reason. And we would want level players. I think we want the like alive players. I thought I had some sort of. That's okay. We will find all alive players. I really thought I had something like that. Because they shouldn't bother to aim for players who are down. Well, maybe they could. Little players find P is alive. Is that? There's another predicate. List. Search element that matches the condition defined by the specified first occurrence within the entire list. Oh, the first. But we want a list. We don't just want the first one. Oh, so that's something else. That's called like filter or any. God, we need Sorry. Oh, I do have link. There's some sort of function that I can call on a list to be like filter out everything unless this thing is true. And I don't use these things often enough, so I can't remember. Select many maybe. What do you do? Gives me a new list. Or is it select? It also gives me a list. Okay. Return P is alive. No, that's not what we want. P is alive? No? Gosh, I'm sorry, I don't remember any of this stuff. Cannot convert from IEnumerable. Oh, okay, it needs to be a toList. Did I do it? Did I do it? No, I'm a failure. Cannot convert from generic. Oh, it's returning bools. No, it's not select. Gosh. Find all. Maybe that's all I wanted. Thank goodness. Okay, I'm sorry about my incompetence there. That's what the internet is for, you know? Tell me these things. Also, IEnumerable is apparently acceptable. Okay, so I'm sorry. Let me break out what I'm doing here. Link is a really weird thing. It's also super useful. It can also be very slow, so it's dangerous. Like, I would not want to be using, is this even link? It doesn't matter. It's got to search over things. You wouldn't want to do something like this every single frame. We're doing this every, 1 to 2 seconds. And the performance hit because there's usually only one player in the whole game anyway. And it's probably going to be, 2, maybe at most. So in this case, it's super fine, and we could have probably coded this other ways, but let's be generic. Maybe there's 10 players in the game in the future. We want this to still work. And in fact, the game can support up to 4, right? So let's do it this way. So this gets a list of all the players in the level. That's what level players is. Then we find all of them matching a function. And this is a weird notation, and this is where I'm going to assume you don't know C#. But if you know other programming languages, you may have seen something like this. So we're basically passing a function into this function. The function takes one argument, P, and returns a thing. Here's another way you could write it that would probably make a lot more sense. I don't even know if that's how you would do it in C#, but you would do, return P is alive. Right, this looks weird. This is not exactly how you do it in C#, but this is similar to what we're doing. We're just generating a new function on the fly. It takes in a playership P, and then we return whether or not they're alive, and then find all says, okay, if this function returns true for each item, I'm going to return it out and include it in this list of, of the find all things. So, what did C# call them? Predicates. I know them as anonymous functions, or I don't know, delta function. I don't know, people, or not delta. I don't remember. People call them all kinds of things. It depends on whether you're in JavaScript or PHP, and the result of that is I can't remember, because it depends on who you talk to and what language you're using, what in the world they're called. Anonymous functions is what I tend to call them. God, there is some other name. It's not delta. I'm saying delta because delegate starts with the same 2 letters or something. I don't remember. The point is that they're great. It's very useful to have functions like this. And again, LINQ is really good. It's also known for being slow. It really depends on where and when you use it. Used with care. So in closest player, we give a list of things. It finds the one that's closest. Now there is the possibility that we get no player. So the target could be null. And when that happens, that's okay. Apparently that means they're always going to stare to the left. That seems like they can't possibly be both look left. It'll stare to the left. So fine. If it can't find anyone that looks to the left, we don't care. So let's do this other thing. We want them to shoot sometimes, so we need to add a private int, a weapon cooldown. And I'm approaching 30 minutes here, so I'm going to be done after we make it shoot and we check it out. So retard, whoops, weapon cooldown. So the question is, how often do we want them to shoot? And how much damage do we want each shot to do? That's an interesting question. I think we want them to shoot faster depending on their strength, but we also want the weapon to do more damage. So let's do weapon damage as well. So, you know what else we could do? I'm being silly. Let's do private weapon W or weapon. We'll just make them a new weapon because the game can generate weapons, and this guy is apparently procedural. So, new basic gun. Bonuses would be your strength. We want weapon options, no bullet effects. That's absolutely true. And all these things default. Okay. So we'll just make a new weapon, and then every update we will say weapon.firing or something. I think do fire. That might be good enough. Like if we just ask it to always fire. No, we do. There is some sort of like thing that you make it fire, just like as if you're pressing the fire button. Maybe it is do fire. It's been a long time since I've done this part of the code too. It's a weird mix. I won't say most. Some players equip themselves with weapons and just kind of use weapons as players would, and basically they just always hold the fire button. But not all of them do. I think it's do fire. Gosh, I don't think it's do fire. Play sound, increase the round, advance the rainbow color. We don't want to play the sound every single round. Well, so here's what we should do. We should ask what do fire is called. We're solving problems. It's cool, guys. Base do fire, weapon do fire, update. If is firing. What sets is firing? If equipped to firing. Okay, so that's what we need to do. So we need to, where's our I? We just need to update the weapon. And then we say if it's firing. Okay, so firing equals true. There you go. We'll make me always be firing, and then we update the weapon. The weapon will say, oh, my equipped person is trying to fire me, and I'm ready to fire, so I fire. So let's try that out. The only other thing is the direction we fire needs to depend on which way we're facing. So if we want to be facing left, then we would say weapon, change mode maybe? That's not quite true. So weapon, usually for a human player, let's just try this, and we'll solve this next video. So usually for a human player, right, if you want to switch the direction your weapon shoots, you have to wait until you're out of the level. And you kind of do it by just toggling its mode. which is cheating because that really mode can be anything. It doesn't have to be which direction the weapon fires. We're going to need to make a new game again. It could be that when you toggle a weapon, you know, it does like anything. It doesn't have to be anything to do with how it's firing. It could be just, oh, instead of, you know, I can't think of examples. Instead of just shooting EMP bullets, you shoot normal bullets. Like, I could conceivably make weapons do that. That's not the right enemy either. So there really isn't anything that just says, I want this weapon to face left or face right. It's just, I want you to toggle your mode, and in your case, weapon mode happens to equal, you know, direction of fire. So I think I'm going to have to do something slightly different. Wow, usually I find them by now. Find the eye guy. I'm surprised that I'm, it's like everything but. That's that huge blip on the mini-map means it's the Mencallan Manufactory. Now it crashed. So here's a problem that I just noticed. The eye, we need to say, weapon equip on equip this. I think that will do it. Yes. Okay. So the weapon was not equipped to, whoops. It wasn't properly equipped. You have to equip a weapon to a creature. Again, I've done this before. It's kind of like making it embarrassing for somebody who's like, hey guys, want to see how you program? The answer is you forget everything you've ever done. And then that's fun. Wow, that was meant to rhyme. That is a guy who I don't care about. Let's just check. I always, for some reason, I got in the habit of skipping the first few because I thought bosses couldn't appear there, but that's because I'm crazy and wrong. That guy's not turning around. That means it's not him. They are firing all the time, which is a little scary. So that guy is firing the wrong direction. Maybe he doesn't know left from right. Maybe the weapon was randomly generated as firing the wrong direction, because that can happen. So anyway, that's way too much firing. We're going to want to like change that. They should probably have slower but more damaging bullets. The reason I say that is, again, I don't want the game to be... That's kind of funny that it goes in like a sine wave, though. This is like a phrase I've kind of learned from... sorry, that was a lot of noise. From League of Legends. They always talk about windows of opportunity, and I think that's a great way of thinking about these things. Like, there needs to be a downtime in the enemy's attack to give you an opportunity to get in your own attack. They can't have coined that phrase, or if they coined the phrase, it's not a new idea. But now that that phrase is in my head, it's very useful, and I do think about it that way. That is the power of words, right? They give you something to talk about or to think about. So yeah, windows of opportunity. That's what these enemies need, and so I really try to stay away from things that just shoot nonstop. You know, I want it to be like the boss that we saw, the big rectangular one floating in space. You know, he shoots several rounds of those EMP bullets, but then he stops for a little bit. And honestly, there isn't a whole lot of like opportunity there. There is in that you can position yourself correctly, so that helps. But the way that the bullets overlap, it gives you a few ways to get in and out without getting slowed. Since it is just getting slowed, I've kind of not cared. It's kind of his orange bullets that I worry more about, and those are intentionally on a lower fire rate. So something similar is going to have to happen here, and combined with the whole like, oh, we want to be able to fire left or right or do all this stuff, maybe I just need to not try to equip them with a weapon. That's probably what's going to need to happen. So I will do that in the next video. I will figure out all that weapon nonsense. Thank you very much for watching, and yeah, thank you for being interested in Mysterious Space. I'm having fun making it, and I hope you're having fun watching. Goodbye.